Hello good people, I'm Dmitry, and if you have the courage and the urge to build a system with a NUC compute board, you don't have many choices for cases. Razer showed off something at CES last year with the Tomahawk, but that's not on the horizon anytime soon. So your case options are limited to either the Intel's own enclosure, which is, it's okay, but you don't have full graphics card support in terms of length. And the other option would be the Cooler Master NC100. What's really cool about this case is that it's extremely small, just under 8 liters, and it's designed around the whole NUC compute element. The benefit, of course, is there's no wasted space, but the downside is that it's almost approaching the sizes of other really popular small form factor cases that support an ITX motherboard, like the DAN case, for example, which is actually slightly smaller than the NC100. So let's break down exactly what you get with the NC100 in terms of user experience and what does this ecosystem really offer over ITX. Now, the intent of the whole NUC platform is to be as compact as possible with simple DIY elements, as you have to populate your own RAM and storage into the NUC that uses 9th gen notebook processors, and surprisingly still, these NUC 9 units are hard to find. You can watch our full review of the NUC 9 Extreme to get acquainted with the element and everything it has to offer. Oh hi, I see Uni fans in your future. UNI fans. Uni fans. Introducing a really cool way to fans with Lian Li Unifan SL120. ARGB fans that daisy chain like no other with a seamless connection via the frame. They look fantastic with double-sided light show, available in black or white. And the best part, one cable, 4 fans with up to 16 fans total via the Uni Hub. The software is powerful and so are the PWM fans at 1900 RPM. The Unifan SL120 by Lian Li. Check it out below. I will say the price point is a major roadblock with all parties involved, not just with Cooler Master and this enclosure, but from Intel side as well, because the compute element, that is not a cheap thing. So aside from what you spend on the Intel compute element, the enclosure itself from Cooler Master is $200. That is because you get the enclosure and some value add addressable RGB illumination built in on the power button and at the very bottom underneath the front foot that shoots all the way to the back and kind of spills it all over the place. I'm not a big fan of this approach. A 650 watt SFX gold rated power supply is included with short cables that eliminate all the cable clutter. And we also have the daughter board at the bottom into which you plug in the NUC compute element and your GPU. The reason why I say this might be a tough sell for the enclosure and for the entire ecosystem is because all of the concerns that we had in January when we made initial explained video on this whole NUC compute ecosystem, they still exist today, and the thing is, they are just all too expensive. Now for $200, I was hoping to see a bit more focus from Cooler Master on the build quality of the enclosure. It's not bad, but it's not fantastic or premium either. For example, it is all plastic and steel. The side dust filters are glued to the side panel, which I find quite strange without being able to remove them, unless you of course rip them out. The design is a bit too angular for my style. I was hoping to see something a bit cleaner like we saw with the NR200, but the one positive is that both side panels and the top are removable, making installation and working inside the enclosure super simple, and the chassis seems to be all secured with screws, so you can undo them and completely disassemble the frame. I find it really odd that we have red USB ports at the front, but there's a reason for that, and that is because they're USB 3.1 Gen 2, like what you would find on the back of the motherboard. What's really cool though is the actual USB internal cable is removable, so you can connect that to the front and directly into the compute element. A few more cables are included, like this ARGB hub that is SATA powered and you can cycle between different colors. The only issue is that you cannot actually enable a solid color. You either have like blinking, fading away, or this RGB puke. We also have a fan splitter because the top of the chassis has 2 slim 92mm fans for exhaust. And the last 2 accessories include a magnetic dust filter that you attach to the top and this plastic, really flimsy, slightly adhesive shroud for the actual NUC element. Once we're inside, the first thing we notice is that daughter board card at the bottom, the power supply at the front, and the power cable somewhat cleanly pre-routed at the top so it's not dripping down. And the daughter board card requires a proprietary 10-pin connection, and that is already pre-routed into the power supply. So if you swap it out for a different SFX unit, you will have to find an adapter. Now, since the case is based around the NUC element, you don't have to worry about CPU tower clearance, about storage configurations, since that is basically the NUC element enclosure by itself, into which you can mount your own RAM, SODIMM memory at 1.2 volts, and we have two M.2 SSD slots. So this DIY approach is fairly straightforward. You pop it out, populate storage and memory, install Windows, and you're good to go. The NUC element is also incredibly small. My RTX 2060 Super, which is the ITX version, is just a tiny bit larger than the NUC element, and that contains your processor, your memory, your motherboard, and your cooler too. So the only thing you have to worry about with the NC100 is GPU clearance. You have 2.5 slot GPUs that are supported up to 320 millimeters. So basically any card on the market, including the new RTX 3000 series. We've done a full explained video, check it out over here. But the only thing that might be a problem is the height of the graphics card, which in this case you have a little bit until the connector, and you do have the fans up top there that also limit your spacing, but anything slightly taller than reference should be sufficient. Now it looks like the daughterboard card Cooler Master is using has wider spacing between the element and the GPU, which is awesome because on the original Intel NUC 9 Extreme, that spacing was really short and the two PCI devices were practically touching. So with the NC100, you can fit that plastic shroud in between, and it helps with cooling the NUC as it doesn't simply suck in that hot air emitted by the backplate of your GPU. So generally, the spacing here is sufficient. Once the power connector is removed, you can insert the compute element, get that powered on with all the cables and all the I/O cables as well, insert your GPU, and you're ready. Because of the compact form factor, it is a much easier assembly than working with an ITX motherboard inside something similar. So that is one advantage of the NUC ecosystem, and especially the NC100. So after a quick Windows installation, the first thing I wanted to see was how cool was the GPU and the NUC element itself, because the 99HK is being cooled by that blower style design, and I wasn't expecting any miracles. And in my IDA64 stress test, the CPU gets really toasty, but the GPU is incredibly cool. The top two fans are doing a fantastic job, and looks like the ventilation on the sides is adequate. I then installed the plastic NUC shroud, and we did drop the CPU by a few degrees while the GPU remained the same, and removing both side panels to give us a reference point exactly how toasty the case is. And we do drop a few degrees on the CPU and GPU, but not that significant. So the case itself has really good cooling potential for the GPU, especially when we compare it to my most recent ITX cases like the NR200, the Era from Fractal Design, and the H1 from NZXT. A few more things to mention about the case: we have antenna slots either at the back, so you just mount them into the holes, or you can remove the front panel and mount it behind it. This of course would give you a cleaner look without the antennas sticking out from the back. I don't think you can do much with the CPU temperatures because the case cooling potential is great, but the blower style design on the NUC element, I mean, it is what it is, unless you undervolt the CPU and underclock it too. Really, the main thing that is constantly at the back of my mind when it comes to this ecosystem and the NC100 is the price point of the actual NUC element, its availability and where you can find one, and then also the availability and price of the NC100. Simply because you can't convert this to an ITX enclosure, it doesn't support a motherboard, it's only for the NUC element and the GPU. And the closest thing in size to the NC100 would be the DAN case, which is $200. And then if price and ITX is the route for you, then make sure to check out the NR200 from Cooler Master, because I mean, it is a much larger enclosure with 18 liters, but in terms of cooling potential, in terms of hardware support, GPUs, it's all well maintained for 2020. As for the NC100, it does exactly what it promises to do in terms of delivering a proper enclosure for the whole NUC element ecosystem, giving you plenty of GPU clearance, a solid gold 650 watt power supply, and really fast I/O at the front as well. So let me know what you think of the NC100 in the comments. I don't think the whole NUC element will be as popular, and this shows. Like, Cooler Master is the only case company who is making cases for the NUC element. Razer showed off something, like a few other companies did, but this is literally the only one you can buy right now if you find one. So I think it's going to be pretty rough for this thing to sell. Alright guys, I'm Dimitri, thanks so much for watching. Check out this other relevant content, subscribe for more, I'll talk to you next video.